Yo, check in. Section 104, we live again with another episode.
So we back.
Yes, sir, the Section 104 podcast. We got a good one for you, man. We got Coach Charles Gibson in here, man. What's up, Coach?
Good. Thank you all for having me here, and it's good to see you all again.
Yeah.
Same here. We appreciate you for coming through.
We most definitely needed this interview because we got a lot to talk about.
Let's do it.
Yes, sir. So first off, I want to, give some people a little bit of history of you. Right now, you're representing the Tacolcy Raiders.
Yes.
As a coach.
Yes.
Is that where you started at?
Yeah. So I started initially with Tacolcy a couple of years ago in football. And we transitioned into, after that first year I coached with them for football, then we started a lacrosse program.
Okay. A lacrosse program.
Yes.
And now down here, lacrosse, that sounds taboo to us. We, when growing up, it's all about the big three: football, basketball, track.
Yes.
Right? Sneak in base.
So we never heard about the lacrosse team. So tell us a little bit about that program.
Okay, so lacrosse is mostly a northern program. It's starting to trickle down now. Okay. And it's a combination of hockey, soccer, football, because you're wearing helmets. And the object of the game is to you get the ball, which is almost the size of like a baseball, and it's rubbery, and you try to score goals. You have a goalie, you have a defense, midfielders, and attacks, which is primarily your offensive guys. You have 10 guys on the field, and it's 3-3-3. 3 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 3 attackmen, which are your offensive guys, and 1 goalie. So that gives you 10. And the object of the game, like most games, is to outscore your opponent and to stop the other guy from scoring.
Right. So we're doing, we're coming up with the lacrosse thing. What made you want to come up with lacrosse, knowing that down here in Miami, where we from, or South Florida, or Florida, period, because like you say, it's an up north type of sport. Right. And another question I would like to ask is probably a 2-part question. Have you ever seen other teams play up, like, what you mean, like up north, like out of the state of Florida?
So right? It's a growing sport, but we have seen. So let me just back up. So my introduction to lacrosse was when I was about in junior high. No, a little bit earlier, maybe like 4th grade, 5th grade. I went to a sleepover camp in New York, upstate New York. Okay. And it was a sports camp, so they did all the sports. And that was my introduction to lacrosse. Lacrosse is really big in upstate New York. So when I talk about northern area, we're talking about New York, Virginia, New Jersey, that northeast section. That's where they're really big at. Okay. And I learned the game there. Now, again, it was a sports camp, so we did multiple sports. It wasn't a lacrosse sports camp. They didn't have lacrosse in Miami. Now, I say that with quotations because they had it at some of the private schools. And so when I say that they had it, there are people who are my age group who played lacrosse. I didn't even know about it when I was in high school, even though I knew what it looked like. So a lot of those guys who are in my contemporaries, they played, and it was probably like 4 or 5 schools that played it. So it wasn't big at all. It wasn't even on the radar. Right. So fast forwarded, when my son was in kindergarten or 1st grade, they had a recreational league, almost like an Optimus, in like maybe about 4 or 5 blocks away from me. So me understanding what it is, I recognized it, and then I talked to the people and I put my son in. So that was kind of my introduction to it in Miami. He played for them, which is called Miami Stone Crabs. They're still going on now. He played for them for about probably like 3 or 4 years, and then that's when I transitioned into coaching football at Tacolcy. Right. And then again, one of the reasons was when football season was over with, the kids didn't really have anything to do, and instead of me taking my kids over to down south, it was like more like Pinecrest area, I said, well, why don't we start one here? And then, a lot of the things is that parents really follow the coaches. They trust the coaches. We have father figures to a lot of the kids who don't have their, we're just an extension. And a lot of times we can get more out of the kids than some of the teachers in the school because we can use other methods.
And
they see us, we look like them. And so we had the trust of the parents in order to start the program.
Right. So you saying you started the lacrosse program first, right? And then you transitioned into the football.
No, football first.
Football first.
And then transition.
Okay, so how was that transition, like getting the kids to transition also with you? Because you transitioned them to a sport they probably was normalized to, grew up on, all that, until you taking them into something that's brand new that they probably can't even see on TV or don't know how to find it.
That's true. They didn't, I think initially, because it's such a relatable physical game to them. It's a lot of contact.
Yeah,
you don't have to teach kids contact. Now, I think that's one of the advantages, and I'm digressing, but that's one of the advantages that we have, especially at the early ages, is because a lot of those kids who just play lacrosse, they not used to that physicality. Our kids, they live in that world, so they putting a helmet on, putting shoulder pads on, having gloves. They live in that world.
They bringing that football mentality to lacrosse.
And that was kind of one of the reasons that we had a little friction in playing some of the schools, some of the programs in the Broward area, because our 8-year-old kids, which are 6, 7, and 8, they bring a certain physicality that them 6-year-olds up there have never seen.
At all.
Whereas we start on that. So we had an advantage there, but to answer your question, it is the essence of what we do. Now the difference is that we use a stick, and that was what we call stick skills. They have to learn how to scoop the ball and pass the ball.
Right.
But if you catch them at such a young age, it's seamless. It really is.
Right. And I attended one of your guys' games.
Yeah.
I believe you guys played Western.
We played
Davy or something like that.
That was at Tacolcy.
That was at Tacolcy. It was Davy.
Yeah.
And y'all was telling us before the game, me and Chuck, like y'all.
No. It was Western. It was Western. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And y'all telling us like the week leading up to the game, even when we got to the game, y'all have to watch these people play. Like, y'all have to watch these kids play. They are amazing. We taught these kids, you say what, for 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And now they playing like they like they've been playing their whole life.
Just like they've been playing football. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we go there. We turn on the cameras. We not really knowing what to expect, right?
Yeah.
We just see that purple and gold going up and down the field, zooming, zoom,
scoring left and right.
And it was, I was amazed. It had me blown away, right? But you talked about a little incident earlier that happened. Can we speak on that a little bit?
When the game
ended.
So.
And I'm sorry to cut you off, but I know what you're about to talk about. I know it happened more than one game. So you could talk about your experience.
Yes.
Starting this new lacrosse league
in the inner city.
In the city, right? Coming from where we coming from, looking how we look,
right?
And the trials and tribulations that you had to really overcome.
I think that, and you kind of hinting at some of the things that we talk about. There's a biasness that happens when we play sports that are predominantly considered white or other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is, we in 2024, and you hope that there aren't people who have certain views about us, and I say us as blacks and brown people, and they think that certain sports are maybe just for them, and that we don't have the capacity to understand, or all we do is we used to always hear the comments, especially the first 2 years, and even sometimes now, when there's a physical contact that's illegal contact, they say, oh, this isn't football, meaning that we don't understand the game, and this isn't football, right?
But you guys are winning.
True. But I think I have learned throughout the years that sometimes in order for you to justify your superiority, you have to push other people down. You can't look at what the other team is accomplishing and appreciate that and say, you know what, they're doing some things right. They're actually beating us. What can we do better? Yeah. And in order to not have to answer those questions or look into the mirror, you just say, oh, they cheating, or they're too physical, or this isn't the way the game is supposed to be played.
Right.
Those are like tropes that people use to try to justify their inefficiencies, right? And so, it's always frustrating. I think that every year something like that happens where it really upsets me, because I know the type of work that my kids or our kids are putting in. I know what the coaches are doing, who are really putting in the time to get the kids better.
It has to be frustrating in the fact that you have to now coach these kids, that now this is a part of life. Like, you may have not learned this up until that point, but now, like, you have to coach them on that and try to help them navigate through this, because they've never experienced some of the things they're experiencing.
And not even only that, like, you have, when we was out there, we see in your program, you have a mixture of kids.
Yes, we do.
Different colors, different races, whatever. So, and I know, like Chuck just said, you have to also coach the kids on, this is life. We, like you say, we can't be the aggressors. Things like that. And also, you got the other kids on the team, and they're not understanding, well, like, Coach, why are you telling them that? So how was that experience? How do you get that across?
I have to tell you all in two parts. How do I come that across to the kids? But let me just back up.
Okay.
I think that truly that's one of my saddest moments of this whole process. When you have kids who are 10 years old, 9 years old, and you have to instruct them about life. What we call is have the talk, right? And I just feel like, it's heartbreaking, because we have to tell them to tone down their athleticism. I'm not even gonna say physicality. They have to tone down their athleticism so that we don't beat them so bad that they don't want us in the league again, right?
That's crazy.
And so it is asinine. It doesn't make any sense. But one of my coaches, a good friend of mine over the years, he said, Coach, we have to have these conversations with them, because if they don't let us play into the league, we don't have any games to play. And so when you look at the big picture, or the somewhat big picture, you have to explain this to them, to tone it down, what is natural to them. And to be honest with you all, the game that we play, our physicality, is how it's played in high school, college, and the pros. The same physicality.
Right.
But because these parents on the opposite side believe that, we're too physical, we're too athletic, they want to complain. And they throw out all kind of tropes. Now, how does that happen in trying to explain it to them?
Right.
What we do is we try to focus on the game itself without physicality. Meaning that pass the ball, use your feet, try not to check them using your stick or your shoulders. Now, again, that's not their nature.
Well, I'm sorry, but don't that take away from the game of the kid, or the kids learning how to play the game the right way in some type of aspect?
It can, but if they there's a transition. When you're in 8U and 10U, you could be more athletically physical than the other team and really dominate.
Because we noticed that from the 8U game, it wasn't as physical as the older ages.
But when you get to 12U, it kind of shifts a little, and 14U it shifts even more. If you can move the ball, that's more important than your physicality. Now, physicality comes into play, because if you hit them good, you're gonna get a person scared, and then they're gonna be, you know what I mean? But if you playing a team who maybe not as physical as you, but if they move the ball around, it's going to be difficult, because the ball is faster than your legs, and so if they space it out well enough, by the time you chasing him and the ball already gone. So the stick skills are more important than the physicality, but you still want to have that physicality component, because it does give you an advantage.
Right.
Yeah. So that's so you transition into teaching them the stick skills in a way of trying to offset as much physicality as possible. You know what I mean? We're not telling them don't do it. We're telling them, look, do what you do, but let's focus on some other stuff. So we're not teaching, It's not that we not teaching. We don't have to teach physicality because it's innate
It's
in them.
already in
You know what
them.
I mean? So that's one component that we don't have to worry about. We don't have to teach them how to hustle. We don't have to teach them how to get physical. But we do have to really focus on of getting that stick skill.
Cause they know how to do all that, but
Yeah.
they don't know how to do it with the stick.
Yeah, they don't know how to do it. But I'm gonna tell you, at that younger age, and y'all saw it, but that 8U team, when they become 12U and 14U, they're gonna be some dominating players because they've learned. It's almost like you teaching a kid from scratch how to use your left and right hand. So they don't really know that they're not right hand dominant because they've been taught at the beginning levels how to use both.
Wow.
Right? And some of them kids, man, they
gonna be dangerous.
they're
In
very
any
dangerous.
sport they decide.
Any sport that they decide. And the lacrosse component gives them a sport in their back pocket.
Yeah.
Why is that important? Because if they go to a school that has lacrosse, the learning curve for lacrosse is so big, it take you at least 3 or 4 years to get to a certain level. So when kids who've never played go to high school, they so far behind, right? In a sport that like track, I'm gonna tell y'all, I didn't run track until I was in the 11th grade, and I was all day when I was a senior. So it was no learning curve. It's just down set huddle. The gun went off, and I'm all day in the 100 and 200, right? You can't do that in lacrosse. You can't start in the 11th grade and be all day the next year. You need at least I would say at least 3 or 4 years to really accumulate the experience of having a stick in your hand, being comfortable with it. But I say that to say that when our kids come out of our program, they're gonna have so many tournament game experience that most kids won't have. Because we practice all the time. We play in tournaments. Right. So when they go to high school, man, we get calls from American Heritage. They calling us, man, where y'all kids going? Columbus, coaches is trying to set up meetings with me. Berlin, Ransom Everglades. So we trying to create a pipeline.
Ransom Everglades, that school is something else,
isn't it? Right?
Yes, it's real nice.
Yeah, super nice. They got the aquarium on the end of the high school. That's great.
That's the most impressive part to me.
So when you walk down and you see them, you can see the people swimming over there. But I'm saying that to say that we really giving these kids opportunities to go to those schools, because the coaches really see the value. The coaches see that some of the kids who coming on a lacrosse field, they're either weren't good enough to play football, so now they're trying to find a backup sport. Okay. Like our kids could be in the same way. Maybe they're not good enough to go with football. Yeah, but if they backup sport is lacrosse and they got all this experience, man, you got a kid who could be an all-star.
That was going to be a question I was going to ask you. Like, how do you find your athletes for lacrosse? Like G said, like, this is Miami, so you got the big 3 sports. How do you get kids from those other sports? Like, how do you find your athletes?
Well, we just get them from football. That's what we get them from football. Mainly from football. Okay. We get them all from football. And again, it's just a trust. And then it's starting to pick up a little bit of word of mouth. We get like maybe, I would say 10 to 15% of the kids, they come from just a word of mouth, but most of them are from the Tacolcy program. We're really hoping to expand and get more kids. We really want to build from the ground up, so we want to get a lot of kids in the kindergarten, 1st or 2nd grade, and we want to have, we just want to have a baseline, because when those kids go up, then we'll have more.
You talk about building the Tacolcy lacrosse program, right? Yes. Are you interested in getting other programs to build in the lacrosse team too, so you could also compete with them and not have to travel way out
to
far,
West End or all the way to the Keys?
I would love to have a Miami league. We've been in talks with Gwen Cherry and their athletic director out there. We've had conversations 2 years ago with Miami Gardens and trying to start something at Bunch Park. But Gwen Cherry's probably been the closest one, because I think that they have invested in equipment to get their program going.
Okay.
When we had like serious conversations, and I think you all were out there when we had a couple of games out there, it was kind of late in the season. So we're hoping that they start a little bit earlier in recruiting and maybe just get an 8U and a 10U to really get going, and then we can see how we can maneuver. But ideally, we would love to do that. Now, the landscape of lacrosse truthfully, is a money grab. I know it sounds a little foreign to us because, like when we have kids who are being taught like football drills and stuff like that, the trainers probably charge $20 or $30.
Right.
In lacrosse, a 1 hour session can run you $150.
Ooh.
Wow.
Just for the one kid. Right.
Wow.
So you again, we talking about two different demographics, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we talking about the Ransom Everglades, the Pinecrest, the private school.
Yeah.
Them parents will shell out that $150 for that 1 hour,
Yeah.
right? And so I if you kind of examine the ecosystem of lacrosse, and that's not just in Miami, that's all over. Like that's how you got people who claim to be, who played on Duke University lacrosse team in, I don't know, 89, and come down and say, man, you know, I was a champion, and then these parents shelling out that money. You know what I mean? So think about this. If you have one trainer who charging $100 a head, right? And he gets 6 kids out there for an hour. That's 6 right there.
Yeah.
$600
You know what I mean?
for an hour.
For an hour. You know, that's the dynamics. And so that model of so that's one part of it. Now those same trainers coach either a rec league or a travel league. Mm-hmm. Now, in order for your son to play on my team, you want him to play, right? He got to do some trainings.
True.
Right?
True.
So now you done built a pipeline of income because you want your son or you want your child to be able to play on the team or start or get some significant minutes. But in order for me to really evaluate him, I'm being sarcastic, audience. In order for your son to be a part of the team,
right,
I need to train him a little bit. He not getting no better if he ain't training with me.
Yeah.
So that's the mentality behind it, right? And that model doesn't work for us.
And like you just said, it takes a couple of years to actually get this thing down packed. So you will want the trainer.
For sure. If you started him at 8 years old, you want him to be a star athlete at 12. So you talking about at least 4 or 5 years. You know.
Yeah.
And now but if you get the 6 every week or every 2 weeks or whatever, you making some money.
Right.
But a lot of those guys, they fizzle out. They don't really have the dedication. It's few. I shouldn't say all. A few of them. Most of them don't have the dedication to really stick with it because everybody think it's a money grab, and so now you done start up a program because you see what I'm making. You done started up a program, so you see. So now people start cannibalizing everybody, and there's no cohesion there. We see it a little bit in football, but the amount of money that they going through people's hands is insane.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Money.
I want to ask a question. Why don't you think that we see lacrosse professionally?
Well, they do have a professional league. It's the PLL, but
see, I ain't know that.
So they haven't.
Every day.
They haven't. There's been different leagues, lacrosse leagues, in the past.
Okay.
They've had the PLL. I think they've had the National Lacrosse League. Now the PLL is the Premier Lacrosse League, but I think that they're doing it right because they have a model that is almost like NASCAR. So they'll take 5 or 6 teams, 6 to 8 teams, and they go on the road and they play in one stadium.
Okay.
And that's the same type of thing that NASCAR does.
Okay.
In other leagues, the issue with the sport as a profession, you really don't make any money, right? The professional lacrosse player might make on the high end $40,000. So we not really talking about like these guys have jobs and they playing lacrosse. You know what I mean? It's not not even close. It's not. It's almost like playing in semi-pro. I don't even think you make that type of money in semi-pro. But it
might be arena league.
Yeah, so maybe arena league. That might be the equivalent. So you're not getting the best of the best because if you were a real good athlete and now you got a family, you can't feed your family by just playing lacrosse. So it kind of weeds a lot of the great athletes out. And I mean, if you compete in the great athletes either playing basketball or football, right? So it's not one of those sports. Now, what I will say is that, and this is something I didn't know until recently, you have a higher percentage. There's more football scholarships, but the percentage for lacrosse scholarships is a little higher than football. So now you might not be going to the biggest programs, but there's so many programs that have lacrosse now that they can get scholarships. And I always believe that, at the end of the day, there's such a small percentage of being a professional athlete. I think at the NFL level is like 1% of 1%, something like that. It's such a small percentage. And so your goal, in my opinion, and this is the path that I took, that your goal should try to be get a scholarship. If you can't get an academic scholarship, but if you try to get a scholarship just to get you into college and get your
free
college
education.
free, then that's the next level, in my opinion.
Well, so now we got to backtrack to you and how you got your scholarship, because you kind of hinting at it, and then you also you just dropped the 100 and 200 on us like it wasn't nothing.
All day
we're not
in
gonna
the
talk
100
about
and
that. Come on,
200.
coach.
So, as we were talking about off the air, I when I was in the middle school, I was a chubby kid.
Okay.
Right. And I used to run around. It was whatever. I played football at Miami Lakes Optimist. Okay. And but then in my day, we were at junior high, right? There was no middle school. So it was 7th, 8th, and 9th.
You went to 9th grade.
Right. So I went straight to 9th grade. So in like my 8th grade year, I started just running a little bit, I shared some of this weight. And then 9th grade year, I realized that, I might have a little speed, but nothing really exciting. I might be faster than a few, but not, because he was either kids who was beating me. So 2 years later, when I was at Jackson, because I went to Jackson High School.
Okay. Shout out to Generals.
Generals through and through. I joined the track team. Now, as I was telling you all, the reason I believe, and I'm thinking back on it, is that I had a girlfriend who was running track. And so me, you know how this young kid always trying to sniff behind, So
that was the most important thing.
That was the most important thing at the time, right? So I out there with her, and then the coach was like, man, you sitting out here, just come on out there and run. So I was like, all right, cool. And then so I realized that, well, the coach and myself all at the same time, that the kids who had been running, I started beating them.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna stick on to this track thing. You know what I mean? It's crazy because I end up being a better track runner than she was. So my senior year,
that's terrible.
I continued to run track, and it's crazy because I wasn't that good at football. I'm gonna be straight up, and I was fast, but I didn't. And it's crazy because the coach didn't even realize how fast I was until I stopped playing, until my senior year, and I stopped running. He was like, "Man, I didn't know you was that fast running track." He said, "We should have gave you the ball." Listen now, I was like, "Well, it's over. It is what it is. Right, it's over now." So my senior year, I ended up being all day in 100 and a 200, and I ended up getting a scholarship at the University of Illinois for track, full scholarship.
Yeah, that's big time.
Yeah.
So what's your track coach, Coach Hallway?
No, it was don't get me the line. He not there anymore, obviously, because I graduated in '93. But his name was not Smitty. It was it'll come to me. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But yeah, he was great, man. He was great. It was great.
How was it up there in the cold? Up there in Illinois?
From Miami to
I had
that Midwest weather.
I had offers at University of Florida, University of Texas.
All the hot states you passed up on.
Yeah, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to try something different. I took my visit up to University of Illinois, and I fell in love with the business program, and it was okay. I mean, I could tell y'all, it made me want to come back to Miami. Now, I wasn't spooked about it because I had been in cold weather before.
Yeah.
But I knew that this isn't the lifestyle that I wanted because it was always snowing. It was always cold. I don't know if y'all ever spent a lot of time. That cloudiness, it can really affect your mood, especially if you're so used to seeing the sun every day.
Gray.
Always gray. Always gray, especially during the winter time.
Yes.
And so I was okay with coming back, and I always knew I was going to come back. My mama was here, my family was here, so I knew I wasn't going to move out of state or live out of Miami.
When it comes to weather-wise, that's not a hard decision. Midwest,
yeah, we both started in the Midwest in college, and we did not finish in the Midwest.
I finished up there, and then I went to law school at the University of Miami, and
See
and that's
you
it.
again.
Yeah. I'm a University of Miami guy.
Back to back
you
U
again.
fans
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Section
yeah,
104. That might be a U station, huh?
You might as well.
With
Section
one
104
on
UM at the end of it.
I'm definitely a Hurricane.
That'll only be on your shirt.
Because you want to have Florida State on yours.
My wife went to Florida State.
See?
So it's a house divided.
Yeah, sometimes when they play each other, you know.
Yeah. Once
yeah.
they play each other, I know how that go. But you got some deep ties to the city of Miami.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, can you give us a little background on that? Because
Sure. I got old roots here. My grandfather was born in Miami. He was a city commissioner. I think from like 60. I want to say 68 to 78 or something like that. I can't remember the actual dates. And he was a civil rights activist. His name was Theodore Gibson. My dad was, although he died when I was really young, he was a city attorney here. And he actually died at the Caleb Center. And
wow.
Yeah, he had a heart attack there. But so my grandfather was a priest, an Episcopal priest. And I was talking to my son the other day, and he was asking me, "Oh, Daddy, you know, how did you become a lawyer? What made you want to become a lawyer?" I said, "Well, honestly, you come from a line of lawyers, right? Mm-hmm. Your granddaddy, he wanted to be a lawyer, but because of the times, you got to remember he was 1944 when he moved back to Miami, so he didn't really have a lot of opportunities. But his younger brother became a lawyer, so you had a priest who wanted to be a lawyer, and his brother was a lawyer. Then his son, my father, was a lawyer, and then I became a lawyer as well. So my kids are kind of thinking about some of the things that they want to do when they get older. Yeah.
And it's also the Theodore Gibson that the Gibson Park is named after in Overtown.
Yes, the Gibson Park in Overtown was named after him, and you know he was a big advocate for civil rights, you know, and one of the things that he was good at, and I think maybe I get this from him, he was able to really build coalitions. Back in those days, they didn't have districts, so you didn't have like the Liberty City district, right, or the Little Havana district. You had to run citywide. So it wasn't it didn't have as many Hispanics as it did now, but he was able to build coalitions amongst many groups. He already had the black vote, but he was able to get a slice of the white vote, a slice of the Hispanic vote. It's interesting, and many people don't know this, but his campaign manager was Kathy Fernandez Rundle. Her daddy was his campaign manager.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot of deep ties across the spectrum.
Dropping some history gems right now.
Yeah. So
deep
so
ties.
when I see her, she knows me, and she's like, yeah, we talk about, you know, what her dad role was, and it's always a good conversation. And so I say that to say that he was able to bridge the cultural gap, you know, and that's something that you all seen when you all have come to our part, where you've seen in the lacrosse
y'all
kids.
got a
we
melting
got a
pot.
melting pot over there, and we get those people. I hate to even say that we get some of our whites and Hispanics to come to Liberty City.
Yeah, like
you know what I mean,
that's
and they
the
comfortable
stuff, that's
over
what
there.
really got us.
Yeah,
And
I seen them out there
to see y'all,
flip-flops.
the white fans at Tacolcy, like this they hood.
Yeah,
like,
and
like they grew up down the street, like you know, like
they not looking over their shoulder. They
not at
comfortable.
all.
They sitting right
They
there.
comfortable.
You know? Yep.
And it's like, man, this is crazy.
Yeah. Now I have to say that I attribute that to the environment that Coach Ken, who was the park manager, City of Miami park manager, he'd been there for years. He a general as well. He has Coach Ken. He has set a certain standard, right?
Yeah.
That he not tolerating foolishness out there. Coach said, who is the athletic director for Tacolcy, he makes sure that he reinforces that by having the certain types of coaches who are on the field, who not with all that cussing and slapping and all this other foolishness. So there's a culture there that allows for people from the outside to come in and feel comfortable.
Right. So, Coach, man, we about to get up out of here in a few, but we got a couple questions, little fast round,
Let's do
We
it.
like to ask people, a couple questions and things like that, based on some of the things you told us. If you got a backstory on it, we more than welcome. You more than welcome to say it, because our ears are more than open.
Okay.
So, you say you're a track runner, right?
Yes.
Who was the fastest person you ran against?
Tony Gator. He was a year ahead of me, and he was something special.
What
man.
school he went to?
He went to Killian. He went to Killian. There was nobody. Now I was in 11th grade. He was a 12th, but there was nobody in Dade County when I was a senior that I feared. Like, most of the people were scared of me. So it was no. But when I was in 11th grade, Tony Gator and Poole, they were both at Killian. They were something special. And Tony Gator actually went to UM.
Yeah.
He football and track. So he was something special.
Okay. So who's the fastest person you think you've seen with your own two eyes?
Probably in college. My roommate was on another level. He was unbelievable.
Sprinter.
He was a sprinter. He could do he could run from, because they had indoor track. They had the 60 all the way up into the 400. I also had another gentleman, white guy, who was like 6'4". He was just amazing runner.
Yeah.
He ran the 400, the 400 hurdles. He can run the 2.
You got to be a dog.
You got to be a dog. I'm telling you.
I ran the open 4, so 400 hurdles.
That's something different.
Oh
I
man.
know.
Oh man. He's actually a godfather to my youngest daughter. He lives in Tampa. He's a doctor, good guy, man. He just, and it's interesting. He walked on the track team, and the second year they gave him a full scholarship because he was just that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He earned that.
Yeah. He was a sprinter. Mhm.
Okay. So who would you take in the race? Michael Johnson or Usain Bolt in a 200?
In their prime?
Yeah, both in their prime in the 200. When Michael Jackson had the gold spikes on and he won in Atlanta.
I think I would
and
take
Usain
Michael
You
Johnson.
take Michael Johnson?
Only because he's more of a, not I'm gonna say contemporary, but he was running, or he had just stopped running when I was in the track. And I never seen him in person, but he just had a strong kick because he was a 400 meter runner.
Right, he was. Yeah.
Usain Bolt, I mean, the name says it all. He's just a sprinter, and he was so tall. Michael Johnson isn't that
He
tall,
is tall.
but
Yeah.
Usain Bolt, I think like 6'3" or something like that. He's a
he
tall
like
guy.
6'6".
Like
6'6". That's what. See,
Yeah.
he's a
His
real tall
stride
guy.
long, yeah.
That stride is
And he
it's
know
hard
how
to
to
come
use
say.
it.
Oh yeah,
That's what makes him more dangerous than anything.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's get on to lacrosse now.
Let's do it.
All right. The best lacrosse player you ever seen with your own two eyes, not that you heard about, that you seen play or played against.
Not so much played against, because when I played, I was still a child.
Okay.
But seen in person, probably Michael Sowers. I mean, that man is about. He probably about my size, and I ain't a big guy.
Yeah.
And the stuff he does is just amazing. His footwork and his technique, and he's not blazing speed.
Right.
He just got real good technique. There's another defensive guy. I think his last name is Durbin, and that guy, man, his defensive skills he's what I aspire our kids on defense to play.
Yeah.
He played physical. He played fast, and he just played with a chip on his shoulder.
Right.
He looked like a Tacolcy player. Like that's how we play. We play
Right.
physical, fast, and a nastiness.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to ask. This maybe you probably already answered this question with that last question. But if we say we aliens, we all aliens because we don't know about lacrosse. So we actually aliens to the sport.
Okay.
Right? And you got to describe this sport to us. Who would you say go to YouTube, type this guy in, and you will get the essence? You will know everything about lacrosse that you need. Like which person that you could say that describe that to us?
I don't know if there's an individual person, but I think if you go into they got so many things on YouTube now to try to explain the game,
Yeah.
that it's hard to really pinpoint how would you, because there's a lot of the stuff on YouTube is not general. It's like specialized. So when you type in lacrosse, then you'll get lacrosse technique for offense or defense or something like that. But I think USA Lacrosse, if you type that into YouTube, they give a good broad explanation of the game.
Okay.
Because if you watch. If you just type in lacrosse, a lot of times what you'll get is games, and if you really don't understand what you're looking at, you might get turned off because you're like, what am I? These people just running around. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
But you want to get a sense of what's going on in the game, the different positions, the basics. And I think once you get that, you really understand it. And then once you understand it, you really appreciate the game when you watch it, especially on the lower levels, because it's not as fast. So you can really focus in on one part of the game and not be having your head spin because it's going so fast.
All right. So, all right, Coach, we about to get you on up out of here, man.
Yeah, before we do that,
go ahead.
How can they reach you to join the lacrosse team?
That also.
And to get on the program, if anybody's watching this and they want to become a Tacolcy Raider and they want to join and learn about lacrosse.
Well, they can always reach me. I'm an open book. I love to talk to the parents directly. Did I give them my number? I can give them my number or no? What do y'all?
That's on you,
That's up to you.
That's
It's going to be on YouTube.
your phone.
It gets replayed.
Okay,
So go ahead.
They can call me at 305-776-8315. You can shoot me an email if you like. cgibson@lemoncity.com. It's all one word, cgibson@lemoncity.com. And, I can get any kid in the program. It's never too late to start.
And there it is, man. Y'all make sure y'all go check Coach Gibson out down there at Tacolcy, and make sure y'all check out the episode right here on Section 104. We out. Appreciate that, Coach.
Yeah,
That
man.
went well.
I love talking to y'all.